Why, hello people of the internet, I make content here with more content for you, and today's content is going to be another knockoff LEGO figure review. I have more than twice as many figures than I had last time, and even more of a variety as well, some of which I've never even seen as a knockoff figure until I saw them at this website. So without further ado, let's get straight into the package opening.
There's so many. Wow, that's a lot of bags. Just gotta be careful. This one's not going in at all. Ooh, okay. That didn't sound good. Oh, little awkward printing, but luckily we have pieces to go over that. It kind of looks like Jack Sparrow's face more than it does Tony Stark's. Take a look at that face. In our next minifigure, we have what looks to be Bob Ross. Now, I'm not sure exactly how he got in here. That's probably one of the few complaints I have generally for knockoff LEGO figures, is that I just wish they'd come with instructions for any little structures that they have to build, that they have for you to build, because it can be a little complicated sometimes. This one might be a little more of a dud. Interesting concept, but I don't think it paid off as well as I thought it would. Nice hairpiece for Shaggy. I think it was a custom hair mold for Shaggy and the sets, but this is actually a really nice one to use instead. Take a look at that sword. That looks pretty cool. Looks like an action figure piece. And, okay, good thing we have something covering up that chest piece. They didn't even bother putting print on this character. Yeah, not really sure how we got in here, but you could say this is one happy little accident. This is one of the figures, or I guess one of the themes that I have not seen anywhere else for knockoff LEGO before until I went to this website. And this is, I'm sure you can tell if you are somewhat familiar with Mortal Kombat, Baraka. Not the best quality. One eye's bigger than the other, and it looks like he's just like got a twitch in his eye, like he's really angry at something. Now, I don't know about you, but I was not a huge fan of the first time Groot appeared in LEGO as that massive mech, bigger than literally like a Quinjet ship. This figure looks awesome. His face, you can't even really tell he has a face. He did come with this piece right here, which I've been seeing a lot in places like AliExpress. I'm not really the biggest fan of that. I guess it doesn't look so bad, to be honest. My preference is without it. I do like this style right here, and I'm happy that they gave us this, just so that way you can choose. So that's pretty cool. All for $1 as well. Keep that in mind. Look at that. This is just an absurd amount of detail. It looks really good. There's a cool pumpkin bomb. That's interesting. These are actually really cool pieces, though. Take a look at that. This cool spear or sickle. This is a knockoff Jango Fett figure. I've always wanted one, but wasn't able to get the set. That's not good. Doesn't seem to be fitting. This is one of the more worse quality figures that I've gotten. Oh, and as you can see right there, the part of the jetpack is broken.
First up we have BTS, and the detail on them doesn't actually look that bad, but as far as accuracy to BTS, it's terrible. So I gave details, looks, and appearance a 6 out of 10. The quality though isn't the best. Their arms are incredibly stiff. My thumbs were aching after I put every single one of them together, and it wasn't even worth it because they can barely move, so they would really only work for display. And since they don't actually look that good in general, the display is completely cut out. So it's going to be a 2 out of 10 for quality. As far as looking like real LEGO figures, well, considering LEGO has actually come out with a BTS set, I would say that they look nothing like those figures, and therefore is a 3 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility. 1.8 out of 5 stars. Next up is Palpatine, and this figure at first glance I didn't really like at all. It didn't look like it was that good of a figure, but after doing some research, apparently there is an official minifigure that looks really similar, and so that's changed my opinion on it. Apparently Lego did go with a very similar design before. Now I don't particularly like that design, so I'm still going to give it a 5 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. But as far as comparison and compatibility with real Lego, I'm giving it an 8. And the quality is about like an average knockoff minifigure. A little too stiff, but it's manageable. And so I'm giving quality a 4 out of 10. Total, this figure has 2.8 out of 5 stars. Next up is Donald Trump. This isn't really a good looking Donald Trump figure. It looks nothing like him, and on top of that, the quality is terrible. The only thing I really like about this figure is the newspaper he comes with that says fake news. That's a pretty cool piece. That's pretty compatible with Lego. It's going to be a 5 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, 4 out of 10 for quality, and 5 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real Lego. Really, the only reason you'd want this figure is to say that you have one, even though it's a bad one. And so that's 2.3 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Jango Fett. Now, this figure actually looks pretty good for being a knockoff minifigure, and so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. The quality is a little stiff. Overall, not too bad though. However, his jetpack did come in the package broken, and so that's just something that you have to expect if you're ordering knockoff Lego. Sometimes they might come broken, sometimes the pieces just might not fit right, and so it's pretty much a gamble. So don't expect a lot if you're ordering these types of figures, but definitely don't shun them away, because later on there are some actually really good knockoff figures that I got in this bunch, but this is not one of them. It's a 4 out of 10 for quality and a 5 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility with real Lego. 2.3 out of 5 stars. Next up is Clayface, and man, this figure is terrifying. It definitely doesn't look like a real minifigure, but I absolutely love the look of this figure. I just wish they came with more pieces to put on his hand or to switch his hand out, because I think that'd be pretty cool if I could give him multiple weapons other than just a hammer. But other than that, it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. As far as quality goes, he is incredibly stiff and mainly only works for display, so that's going to be a 2 out of 10 for quality, and it's going to be a 4 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. 2.5 out of 5 stars. Iron Man Mark 36, I believe. It's the Peacemaker armor, and when I saw this figure in the store, the pictures, it actually looked really cool, and I don't really know what I was expecting, but I didn't expect the figure to not really move at all. All of the armor pieces that are on him kind of prevents him from moving anywhere, and so really it's only supposed to be for a look, and the look of this figure isn't super appealing in person, at least not as much as I thought it would be. So the details, looks, and appearances are going to go for 5 out of 10. The quality of the figure is actually pretty good. Once you take all the armor pieces off, it feels pretty nice, so that's going to be a 7 out of 10. But comparison and compatibility with real Lego, definitely something that Lego would not do, so 5 out of 10. And though these armor extension pieces don't really look too good, I don't have to use all of them. What I could do is just take a bunch of them off and keep specific pieces, and he can maintain a pretty nice look. And so that's another thing that you'd want to look for while getting knockoff minifigures. If the look of it doesn't fully satisfy you, you can always change it around, customize it. You don't have to use everything they give you, and then you can always use those as spare pieces, as most of the time knockoff Lego pieces are compatible with real Lego. And so this is going to be a 2.8 out of 5 stars. Next up is Joe Biden. Now, this figure is significantly better than the Donald Trump figure. Even the face, I don't think it really looks like Joe Biden, but the face actually looks like a real Lego piece. I do appreciate that. And the picture he comes with him and Obama is pretty interesting. Again, a nice unique piece that's very compatible with Lego. So for detailed looks and appearances, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. For quality, it's not as stiff as Donald Trump, but I am going to give it the same 4 out of 10 because it's still a little more stiff than what I would prefer. But for comparison and compatibility with real Lego, if Lego made a Joe Biden figure, I think this would be a fairly accurate looking one, and so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility. 2.8 out of 5 stars. Luke Cage is next, and the face on this figure is not as good as a lot of the other faces that I got, but the torso print is actually pretty cool. And the quality is really nice on it. The legs, though, are incredibly stiff and literally not even movable. That would be another thing that I'd want to replace. I've been collecting Lego for a long time, so I have a lot of options to go for. But if you're just looking to get this figure without any backup pieces in case if not all goes right, then you might get stuck with a few figures that you are not all that satisfied with. But at the same time, they only cost $1, so not all that much of a waste. Anyways, for details, looks, and appearances, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. For quality, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. And for comparison and compatibility with real Lego, I don't think Lego would do this, but if they were to, I don't think it looks half bad, and so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, 2.8 out of 5 stars. Next up is Hush, and at first glance, this figure doesn't look half bad, but the more I look at it, the more I realize that I really don't like the face. It's just too small, and there's only printing in the front, and so from the back, it's just a gray head. And I just really feel like there was a lot more they could have done with this figure. So that's going to be a 6 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. But the quality is actually pretty good. He only has one super loose arm, but his other arm and his legs are actually really, really good. So that's going to be a 6 out of 10 for the quality. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I do enjoy the guns he was given, the simple design for his torso, but again, the face throws me off. So it's going to be a 6 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real Lego. 3 out of 5 stars. Next up is the Terminator, which is pretty interesting. I like the look of this figure a lot, and I really enjoy the motorcycle that he came with and the additional head that he came with as well. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. For quality, he is not half bad. His hands are a little loose and his legs are a little stiff, but overall it's going to be a 6 out of 10 for quality. As far as looking like a real minifigure, the design looks a lot like how I would expect Lego to design the Terminator figure. So I'm going to give the Terminator a 6 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility with real Lego. 3.1 out of 5 stars. Okay, next up is Heimdall, and this is a really cool looking minifigure right here. It's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. This is a good proof of concept for knockoff Lego figures. I really enjoy all the unique pieces and everything that they use and all the printing that they put on some of these figures. It can really pay off with the look, but as far as quality, his arms and legs are incredibly stiff, and the helmet piece and armor piece like just barely fit him, and so I don't see myself actually being able to take these pieces off anytime soon without damaging the figure. So this is definitely more of a display figure than it is for play. It's going to be a 4 out of 10 for quality, but for comparison and compatibility with real Lego, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I wish Lego made a Heimdall figure that looked very similar to this. I really like the gold armor pieces that they put on him, and even the face, for being a knockoff figure, doesn't look half bad. It fits the helmet, which is usually uncommon. 3.3 out of 5 stars. Next up is Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th movies. Now, again, I don't believe LEGO would be creating a figure like this anytime soon or ever, but the design for this figure looks really good. Now, the weapon he came with wasn't really that good looking of a machete, so I took Lego's machete and gave it to him. He looks even better with that, but just the figure alone, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. For quality, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. The legs are very stiff, but the arms are actually pretty good. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10, and so that's going to be 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Link from The Legend of Zelda, and this figure has some pretty cool aspects and pieces that come with it, like the Master Sword. That's a really cool and unique piece, and the shield has nice printing on it, but I don't like the way that they made it because the shield piece constantly pops off of the handle that he's holding. So again, this is another thing that I adjusted with the figure. I put in an official Lego piece for him to hold the shield, and it works a lot better. But for details, looks, and appearances, I'm gonna give this guy an 8 out of 10. For quality, it's gonna be a 7 out of 10. Very nice. Feels like an official minifigure, but it definitely doesn't look like a real minifigure, and so I'm only gonna give it a 6 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility. Dead giveaway is going to be the way the hat is on his head. Lego just doesn't do that, and the face looks fake. But overall, I'd say this is a pretty decent figure. Definitely worth just $1 if you want a Link minifigure, since Lego hasn't made one. So I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up is Iron Man Mark 6. The armor with the triangle-shaped arc reactor. Now, overall, the look of this figure, all the details that are on it is incredible. It's going to be an 8 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. The quality on it isn't too bad. It feels a little stiff, but much better than a lot of the ones I've seen thus far. And so it's going to be a 6 out of 10 for quality. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, the real Lego minifigure was not this bright of a red, and so it definitely stands out and looks pretty fake. But everything else they put on this figure, I think they did really well. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real Lego. If they did use a darker shade of red, that would make this figure even better. But if you don't have a Mark 6 armor or don't want to spend all the money to buy one for only $1, I think this one definitely does a good job at giving you one to settle with. Next up is the Joker from the Joker movie, and this figure for the most part looks really good. I don't know what that golden gun is for. I don't believe he's got a golden gun in the movie, but it's a cool piece anyways, so I'm alright with it. The face doesn't look accurate to the Joker's face at all. However, the face as just like a custom face for the Joker in general looks pretty good. And so I think it sells the look of this figure. I would say it wouldn't pass for looking a lot like Joker from the movie, but this does a good job at look like a new version of the Joker. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. 7 out of 10 for quality. Definitely great for play. And I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real Lego. I think everything except for the face looks amazing and something that Lego would do. So overall, it's going to be a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Rogue from the X-Men. Now, Lego doesn't really release many X-Men figures, so there are a lot of custom X-Men figures out there, and Rogue is one of them, and this isn't really a half-bad version of Rogue. The face, obviously, is a giveaway, and I would say ruins the look of the figure. The mouth printing is like pushed over to the side, to one side of her mouth, and her pupils are incredibly small compared to the rest of her eye, which kind of gives her a demon look. But the rest of the figure, the jacket over the X-Men suit, actually looks really nice, and I like that coloring for the hair. Definitely think they could have done a better job with blending it together, but it does the job of giving her a white streak in her hair. So it's going to be an 8 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. 7 out of 10 for quality, definitely great for play, but a 6 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility compatibility with real Lego. 3.5 out of 5 stars. And while we're on the X-Men, we have Cable next, another figure that Lego hasn't made, and this is a comic version of Cable. And as far as all the detailing goes, I think this looks absolutely amazing. Everything blends in together really well here, so I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. I think he's got that rare knockoff minifigure look to him where it's not super overcrowded with printing. They also go above and beyond just the regular printing of Lego, and I think it really works here. But the quality lacks a little bit. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. His arms and hands are kind of loose and they don't really stay in very well, but that doesn't happen very often, which is why I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. But comparison and compatibility with real Lego, it's gonna be a 7 out of 10. I really like this figure. Definitely goes well with the collection of X-Men characters that I have, and so it's going to be a 3.6 out of 5 stars. Next up we have Steve Rogers. Now this is an interesting figure. I can't tell if the shield he's using here is his shield without the star, without the colors painted on it, or if this is him using a trash can lid. Because if it is the trash can lid, it doesn't look like one, and it also doesn't look like his shield without the colors on it. But the figure by itself doesn't look all too bad. Obviously the face isn't really the best. They could have done much better with it. I don't like the weird curly line for his mouth, and his eyes make him look like he's squinting, which doesn't make any sense. But the outfit and everything else, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10. Also going to give it an 8 out of 10 for quality. This is pretty great for play. Again though, I don't really know who would want this figure for just the figure. It seems like a random version of Captain America to have, but whatever you prefer, this is a pretty great quality minifigure. However, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real Lego. You can tell that the lines on the torso are way too thick, and so that kind of gives it away, makes it look more of an off-brand figure than a real minifigure. Also, I think they gave Steve a female torso piece because of those black lines on the side kind of show that he's really skinny. So that's an interesting tactic they use, but I don't think it accomplishes what they wanted. But overall, I'm giving this figure a 3.6 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Bob Ross. Again, I'm not sure how he got in here, but it's a nice little happy accident that he did. And for details, looks, and appearances, I think I'm gonna give him an 8 out of 10. If you stare at the figure from like arm's length, that doesn't look half bad, except for the face. Again, I think the beard printing could be much better blended in. Just kind of looks like someone took a marker and just drew that on, and the mouth is not centered in the beard, and the pupils in his eyes are really small, making him also look like a demon. But like I said, from an arm's length, it actually looks pretty good. For quality, this is definitely great for play. The legs and arms move really smoothly and really nice. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for the print work. If Lego were to make a Bob Ross figure, I think they would go with a nice simple design like this, but it would look better than this. I think the print work, I think the color of the print work on this figure looks a little off, but the design for it I think looks really good. And I really enjoy the paintbrush and palette piece that come with. That's a really nice, and along with the Deadpool face that comes with them as well. If you want to make Deadpool Bob Ross, that's pretty cool. So overall, it's going to be a 3.6 out of 5 stars. Okay, next up we have Freddy Krueger. Again, this is a figure Lego probably wouldn't make, but it's actually a really good looking figure. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. The torso looks pretty perfect and uses Lego's design really well, especially with that side arm printing. And the face is better than a lot of the other faces in here. It does look a little squished together, but it's hard to notice that because of the expression that he's making, and so I really like that, and all the burns on his face as well. The second face though on the back looks much less good and much more of an off-brand figure. Mouth is too big, too many lines on his face, makes him look really old, or like has an unnecessarily large amount of wrinkles. Doesn't really make much sense, but face with all of the burns on him actually looks really. And he came with 2 claws instead of just 1. Pretty sure he only has 1, but that's something that's very easy for you to change if you got this figure for yourself. And you'll also have an extra claw used for anyone else, any other custom. So for quality, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. He's a little stiff in the legs, but the arms are like perfect. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Pretty decent looking figure, especially for only $1. 3.6 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Shaggy and Scooby. This is like a 2 for $1, which is actually pretty cool. The Scooby figure is really good. There's not really a whole lot that you can move with it, which I believe is how the actual Scooby-Doo piece is made, and so that's pretty cool. The Shaggy figure, he has the same problem that's with a lot of the other figures with his arm printing. He's supposed to have sleeves, but the flesh printing for him doesn't wrap all the way around the arms, and so from the side it looks pretty good, but from the front it just looks kind of weird. However, that was in the picture, so not unexpected. Just remember to keep an eye out for that. If you're going to get one of those figures and if they have this type of printing, it's more likely that they're going to have that on the figure. But if you're okay with that, then go ahead and get that figure, because other than that, this figure is going to be an 8 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. The face looks really well done. That looks a lot like Shaggy and a real minifigure face. Even his secondary face with his scared expression, that looks really amazing. And quality is going to be a 7 out of 10. The legs, again, are a little stiff, but the arms are really good. And for looking like a real minifigure, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility. This is a pretty good figure, aside from that small print problem with the arms and the sleeves. This is definitely worth just $1. 3.8 out of 5 stars. Bo-Katan is next, and this is a really well detailed figure, much more detailed than the official figure, but not over detailed. And so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. It's going to be an 8 out of 10 for quality. The legs and arms are a little too loose, but it's not super noticeable and feels like a real minifigure. And for comparison and compatibility with real Lego, it's also going to be an 8 out of 10. I think only the helmet really needs work on it. With something so big, you can easily tell that it was hand painted, but it's not that bad. It's, again, a pretty decent looking figure, especially for only $1, whereas the official Bo-Katan figure is around $7 plus shipping. So that's not too bad. It's a pretty good deal. The face definitely looks off. As I've said before, faces aren't really the best when it comes to knockoff minifigures. It's the hardest part to get right, but with the Mandalorian mask over it, it definitely looks pretty good. It'll be 3.8 out of 5 stars. Next up is Iron Man Mark 27, the disco suit. This Iron Man, along with the other Iron Man figures, looks really nice. It doesn't have an overly large amount of detail like some of the other ones. Instead, they go for a more Lego simple design, but with side arm printing, which is pretty cool. So it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. Quality, though, is going to be a 6. The legs are incredibly stiff, which I do not like. The arms are pretty okay, but it's definitely more of a display figure than it is a play figure. And for looking like a real minifigure, if Lego were to make this suit, I definitely see it looking a lot like this with this same design. So it's going to be an 8 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility. 3.8 out of 5 stars. Next up is Iron Man Mark 21. This is a golden suit, and again, for details, looks, and appearances, this is going to be a 9 out of 10 because I really like the design and print work for this figure as an Iron Man figure. But the quality is around the same as the other one. The legs are incredibly stiff, arms aren't too bad but still pretty stiff, so definitely more of a display than it is a play figure. But for comparison and compatibility with real Lego, it's going to be an 8 out of 10 as well. So 3.8 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have someone from Mortal Kombat, Johnny Cage. This is a pretty cool looking figure. I really like the Johnny tattoo on the torso and the details that are on his legs and arms. The face nails the look of Johnny Cage, even with just a few simple things on his face, like glasses, a few lines, and a smile. It looks really good for Johnny Cage. It's going to be an 8 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. 7 out of 10 for quality. The arms are a little stiff, but the legs are nice and loose. This works for display and play. It's going to be an 8 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility with real Lego. If Lego were to make this figure, I would see them going with this design. They would probably do a better job with lines on his torso. That's one of the big giveaways, that it's a knockoff minifigure, but it's less noticeable with all of the other great details on this figure, which is why I'm giving it the score that I am. So overall, it's going to be a 3.8 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Sassy Tin, or Sassy Tin, from Star Wars. This is one of the Jedis that fought and died to Emperor Palpatine in Episode 3, and with that mold and printing on this figure, this looks incredible. It's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. The face on this figure looks really well done. Like, I'm really looking hard for something to improve with the lines on his face, and I can barely see anything. It looks kind of similar to Johnny Cage with how bold of a line it is, but because of how small these lines are and how well they blend into his face, it really just kind of makes the figure look better. For quality though, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It's a little stiff, but overall not too bad. Over time, it's going to get a little more loose and would definitely work for play. The cape is probably the only thing I don't like. It's not the same paper material as Lego's capes or cloth material that they use. It's a unique version that just feels rough and floppy and doesn't really work as well as the other capes. So again, to change that, I could probably just take it off. It's not really that big of a deal, especially because this figure looks incredibly great on his own. I don't think he really needs a cape. And as far as looking like the actual Lego figure, comparison and compatibility, it's going to be a 9 out of 10. This is definitely worth $1 if you want Sassy Tin. It's going to be a 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Now, this is a really expensive figure to get if you want the official Lego version, but this one being only $1 almost nails the look from that figure that came out, I think, in 2003. And it even adds a nice side arm printing, side leg printing, and dual molded legs as well. Now, with more print work on it, there's more room for mistakes, and it has the same sleeve problem as Shaggy and some of the other figures that I have, and there's a blank spot where the boots are in between the webbing, and so that hurts the look just a little bit, but everything else really works well on this figure, and it helps me ignore some of these other smaller problems, and definitely worth just $1 if you wanted something similar to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man but didn't want to pay for the full one, which I think that figure is $50 or $60 on Bricklink. So this is definitely a good deal if you just wanted one for play or stop motion or just to have one. Only $1, and will fill that slot in your collection until you get the official one to replace it. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. Quality is pretty great on this one as well. The legs and arms are a little stiff, but not super stiff. Just kind of feels like a brand new Lego figure. So it's going to be an 8 out of 10 for quality, and an 8 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility with real Lego. 4 out of 5 stars. Next up is Baraka, another Mortal Kombat character, and this figure is actually really cool. They use some pieces that Lego has been using quite often lately for his claws, and I think that really works well for Baraka. I never would have thought of using that, and all the detail on his torso and legs and everything looks really good, and so I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. Quality, he's going to be a 7 out of 10. Much more smoother to move around and better for play. So it's going to be a 7 out of 10 for quality. and an 8 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real Lego. I don't see Lego making a minifigure of Baraka anytime soon, but this is a really great custom Lego figure of Baraka. Even the face, even though it looks kind of odd, I think it works pretty well for Baraka because he's got a weird face in general, and so I'm not even gonna complain about that. It's going to be a 4 out of 5 stars. Next up is Ben Affleck's Batman. Now, this figure looks absolutely incredible, being based off of that official Lego Batman figure. The design behind the Batman symbol is a little more noticeable on this figure than it is on the other Batman figure, and I don't know if I prefer that over what Lego did, but it still looks pretty good either way. And they also continue that design down to the leg printing, which looks really good as well. And the face looks like an actual Lego Batman face. The only thing I would say gives it away would be that red line underneath his mouth. I'd say without that, the face would look absolutely perfect. And all the pieces fit in together really nicely here. The cape isn't a Batman cape, but it's a nice cloth cape and a good copy of Lego's cloth cape. And so I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, 7 out of 10 for quality, and an 8 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real Lego. If you have an actual Batman cape, just swap it out with the one he came with, and it would look pretty close to an official minifigure. Overall, it's going to be 4 out of 5 stars. Next is another big figure, Killer Croc. This one is much better than Clayface. As far as details, looks, and appearances, this looks really good and looks a lot like Lego's Killer Croc figure. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. The quality, though, is going to be a 6. Every time I move around his left arm, it seems to want to pop out of the socket. Now, I don't know if I were to swap out the piece connecting his arm to his torso, if that would change anything. Sometimes it does, sometimes it wouldn't. Definitely worth a shot, but the other arm seems to work fine, and the hands aren't super loose. It's definitely in that like perfect quality spot, except for that left arm. But for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, because this, for only a dollar, it might actually be like a little more than $1, looks pretty much just like the official Lego Killer Croc. And definitely worth that $1. 4 out of 5 stars. Next up we have Kingpin, and this is a figure that isn't even made by Lego, and there has been multiple custom designs for this figure for a while now. In Lego Marvel Superheroes, he was a big figure, and I see many people all over eBay selling a custom minifigure of Kingpin, but I really think this Hagrid torso works perfectly for Kingpin. This is another situation where the character is too small to be a big figure, but also too big to be a minifigure, and this Hagrid torso piece works really well for an in-between, and definitely something that Lego should consider doing if they decide to make a Kingpin figure. So I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, and a 7 out of 10 for the quality. The arms are a little stiff, but I can definitely tell over time they are going to get much better. The legs are perfect. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I think that Lego should definitely do something just like this. So I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Even the face on Kingpin actually looks like an official Lego minifigure face. So that's really cool. And I'm really happy with this figure. This is definitely one of my favorite figures of this whole lot. Definitely great proof of concept for off-brand minifigures. 4 out of 5 stars. Next up we have Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat. This figure overall isn't too bad. The outfit he has is accurate from the one that he's based off of. I don't really like how small the hammer is as compared to him, and Shao Kahn is also in that in-between state where he's too small to be a big figure, but also too big to be a minifigure. However, they didn't do a Hagrid torso with him, which I think I would have preferred. I don't think Shao Kahn would look too good in a Hagrid torso, but if there's any other new mold ideas, you should definitely pursue that. However, in general, this figure is going to get a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, 8 out of 10 for quality, definitely great for play and display, and for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, it's going to be an 8 out of 10. Even though I don't like the way they made Shao Kahn's hammer, I definitely see LEGO doing something very similar to that if they were to make a Shao Kahn figure. 4.1 out of 5 stars. Iron Man Mark 25. This is a suit of armor that was made in the third Hall of Armor set. That is definitely overpriced and is a set that I have not gotten because of that. And I feel like this off-brand figure is a great alternative to LEGO's official figure. It's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. I really like the printing on the pieces that he's holding and the printing that's on like the big armor piece on him. I think LEGO should have gone with that than the pieces that they did. And for quality, it's going to be an 8 out of 10. This is like perfect. The legs are a little too loose, but the arms are like perfect quality. And for comparison and compatibility, I'm definitely going to give it an 8 out of 10. So overall, it's going to be a 4.1 out of 5 stars. Next up, another Iron Man Mark 28. I believe this suit of armor is called Jack. And it's a really cool looking suit, very unique compared to all the Iron Man suits on here. It's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. Once again, I feel like the Iron Man figures are really great compared to all of the other minifigures on here. They really nail the Iron Man look. And for quality, it's going to be another 7 out of 10. This time the arms are a little too stiff, but the legs feels like perfect LEGO quality, and the arms will definitely loosen over time. And for comparison and compatibility to real LEGO, it's going to be a 9 out of 10. This looks really good and can easily pass as an official minifigure. I think the only giveaway for this one being fake is going to be in the eyes of the Iron Man armor. It doesn't have black outlines around it like how the armors usually do. So if you were to add black outlines, it would definitely sell the look even more. 4.1 out of 5 stars. Next up is another Jedi, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and this is a really good looking minifigure. This is near identical to the official Ki-Adi-Mundi figure. This is going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. This is also going to be a 9 out of 10 for quality. This really feels like an official minifigure. Maybe it's a little too like stiff in the legs, but that'll get loosened over time. The arms right now are perfect, and the head is actually loose enough to where you can move it around as smooth as you would move the arms and the legs, and I really like that. Usually I don't prefer the head being super loose, but this one is in that perfect state like the arms and legs, and so it's much more posable for play than other figures, and it's perfect for display. It can easily pass as an official minifigure. It's going to be a 9 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real LEGO, and so overall it's going to be a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up we have Iron Man Mark 24. I believe this is the tank suit of armor, and this is a really good looking suit of armor and very accurate to how the armor is supposed to look like. So this is already going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, just like all the other Iron Man figures. And it's going to be an 8 out of 10 for quality. Much better than all the Iron Man figures thus far. Absolutely great for play. Feels the most like an official minifigure. I would say the only thing holding it back is the mask. I usually don't like to open the Iron Man masks because every time you open it, it like wears down the hinges. But this one kind of opens on its own if I just like press my thumb against it, which shows that the hinges are already loose on it, which I don't like. But everything else about this figure is amazing. So the comparison and compatibility to real LEGO is going to be an 8 out of 10. Definitely seeing this being an official minifigure if LEGO were to make this suit. So it's going to be a 4.1 out of 5 stars. Next is the Green Goblin from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies. This Green Goblin figure was my favorite made from LEGO, and I never got the chance to get it, and it's super expensive on Bricklink now, ranging from $37 to $112. But for $1, I was able to get this incredibly accurate version, even with extra side arm printing and side leg printing. And although it almost makes the figure look too busy, I think it works in this figure's favor and is increasing the look of this figure. And the helmet mold too is absolutely perfect. I'd say the only problem is going to be the eyes and the mouth on the helmet. They are a little off center, but the look of the torso and the legs are incredible, and the alternate face that it comes with of Willem Dafoe in his smile definitely doesn't look like real Lego, but I really like that face for Willem Dafoe, and it gives off that creepy look that he is definitely well known for from playing Green Goblin. So it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, 9 out of 10 for quality, perfect for play and display, and an 8 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real Lego. 4.3 out of 5 stars. Next up is the Watcher. This was an interesting character in the What If TV show, but I don't really like the set that he comes in, and instead of spending $7 for that one minifigure that I didn't care too much about but just wanted to add to my collection anyways, spending $1 on this version definitely was a good alternative for me. I even like the little egg head they gave the Watcher. I do think that Thanos head would have been better, but I'll take this egg head instead. I don't think it looks half bad. And so for details, looks, and appearances, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Printing is really great on this figure. Everything except for the face, I think, looks like it could be an official Lego minifigure. And an 8 out of 10 for quality. The cape is really nice. A smooth cloth texture to it, and the arms and legs aren't too stiff or too loose. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Again, the face is the only thing that's holding it back. I think the lines are too bold and slightly too dark of a color to pass for a real minifigure or to help sell the look. But overall, I think this is definitely worth $1 and is a 4.3 out of 5 stars. Next up is Yoda. This guy is a pain to try to find a good version to get. You can range from $2 to $8 on Bricklink, which isn't super bad, but I just wanted a good Yoda figure for my collection of Jedi figures. I never got around to getting any sets with Yoda, as I didn't really find them worth it, other than for just the Yoda minifigure. But this knockoff version is absolutely perfect, it only being $1, and the look compared to the official figure is like nearly identical. The only problem you could easily see is with his left eye. There's a bit of a misprint there, but other than that, it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. And for quality, it's great as well. It's going to be an 8 out of 10. This is a perfect alternative if you don't want to spend the extra money on an official Yoda figure. Kind of like the same scenario with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, where you want the figure, but you don't want to spend the money and shipping for the official one. This off-brand one is a perfect filler just to complete the look of the collection until you get the official version. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. Definitely one of the best off-brand figures I've ever gotten. 4.3 out of 5 stars. Next up is Electro. Now, the official Electro minifigure that Lego has given us is awesome and it's amazing, but it's been the only version of Electro that we've gotten, rather than his most common version from the comics, his green suit with the yellow helmet. Lego has never attempted to make this Electro, and there are many Lego fans that would love to have a version of Electro that looks like this. Even in the Lego Marvel Superheroes game, Electro looked like this, but a minifigure of him never came out. And again, this is a great proof of concept for off-brand minifigures. If there's a version of a character that Lego fans want, but Lego hasn't given us, off-brand Lego figures is the next best choice. And in this case, it really pays off because the detail on this figure, in my opinion, is incredible. Even the face is much better than most knockoff faces. I'd say the eyes still kind of look like demon eyes. Maybe the lines are a little too bold as well, but it all blends really well together and it's much harder to notice any mistakes than it is on other knockoff minifigures. And so I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, an 8 out of 10 for quality. The legs are a little stiff, but the arms are like perfect. So over time I can see the legs becoming much better, and so this figure can actually work for display and play. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, Lego hasn't made an official figure of this, but if they were, I can see it looking incredibly similar to this. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility. It's going to be an overall 4.3 out of 5 stars. Definitely worth $1. Next up, we have Ezio from the Assassin's Creed games, and once again, this is a great proof of concept for knockoff Lego figures. I don't think Lego would make an official Assassin's Creed figure anytime soon, so this is a great alternative. The printing on the torso and legs for this figure is not only amazing, but also looks just like how Lego would print and design their minifigures. So it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances. And it's also going to be a 9 out of 10 for quality, because this feels like an official minifigure. Legs and arms are not too loose or too stiff. Even the face, I think if the lines were just a little bit less bold, it would look identical to an official minifigure. And the hood piece as well, I don't actually know if Lego has made a hood piece design similar to this, but it's perfect for Ezio's hood. And it's a magnificent custom minifigure, especially for only $1. And for comparison and compatibility to real Lego, it's definitely going to be a 9 out of 10. Now my only complaint is going to be these wrist weapons that he has. These look really cool and help sell the look even more. Again, a great proof of concept for off-brand minifigures, but they are actually very pointy, and so even though this is a perfect figure for play, these pieces are definitely not suitable for children. So if you're getting this figure for your children to play with, definitely remove these wrist pieces. But if you're just collecting the figure and are using it for display, keep them on because they look amazing. Overall, it's going to be a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up is the last Iron Man figure that I got. This is the Iron Man Mark 29. It's got another great 1x2 piece printing for his weapon, and I think the printing on the armor piece that goes with him is much better on this one than it was on the Mark 25. Even the eyes have a black outline, unlike the Mark 25 or a few of the other Iron Man suits that I got, and it helps make this one look even more like an official minifigure. So for details, looks, and appearances, this is going to get a 9 out of 10, and for quality, it's also going to get a 9 out of 10 since it's once again perfect quality. It feels just like an official minifigure, and for only $1, I find that really amazing. For comparison and compatibility to real Lego, it's also going to be a 9 out of 10. Overall, it's a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up is probably my favorite figure of the entire bunch, and that's going to be Groot. Now, Groot has the same problem that Kingpin has, where he's too big to be a minifigure and too small to be a big figure. And Lego's version of Groot was nowhere near that accurate to how Groot looks. The very first version that Lego made was a massive mech, and it completely dominated over any minifigure and big figure, and just did not work for Groot at all. I really did not like that version of Groot, and when Lego made their minifigure version of Groot, I immediately took preference to that one over the massive one, but over time I realized that Groot is just too small compared to the rest of the other minifigures and the Guardians of the Galaxy. However, with the potential that knockoff Lego figure has, they used all of it perfectly and has given Groot the Woody legs, I believe is what they were used for. And so they're just 3 stud hold legs instead of 2 stud hold, and it's the perfect height for Groot. He's much bigger than a minifigure, but at the same time super small compared to a big figure. And at first the color doesn't really match what Lego's been using up until that newer Guardians of the Galaxy set, where the color of Groot pretty much looks exactly like this custom minifigure. And he even comes with an alternate head with an angry expression. Not to mention the face on both of them look absolutely amazing. The print and design work on this figure, all the way from the legs to the side of the arms to the torso, looks amazing. This looks more like an official minifigure than any of the other figures that I got here. And so I'm going to give this one a 10 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, and a 10 out of 10 for quality as well. Perfect for play. I would definitely use this more for display, as it's a perfect figure to complete the Guardians of the Galaxy team look, but it's also a perfect minifigure to play with, as it feels just like one. For comparison and compatibility to real Lego, I'd have to give it a 9 out of 10, only because I don't see LEGO anytime soon using these long legs for a minifigure, even though they 100% should. So it's going to be a 4.8 out of 5 stars for this Groot minifigure. Definitely my favorite one of this whole bunch. And our last minifigure, we have Lobo. Again, it's a great proof of concept for off-brand LEGO because Lobo is a figure that I just wanted the figure for, and he is $7 to $15 now on Bricklink, whereas this one was only $1, and it's practically perfect compared to the official minifigure. Both expressions on his face are perfect. The line work is perfect. The eyes are perfect. The mouth is perfect. This is almost like an exact copy of the official minifigure, just on an off-brand figure. So it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for details, looks, and appearances, and a 10 out of 10 for quality. This is perfect for play, along with being perfect for display, and it's going to be a 10 out of 10 for comparison and compatibility to real LEGO. This looks perfect, just like a real LEGO figure. Definitely one of the best off-brand figures that I have ever gotten. So overall, it's going to be a 4.8 out of 5 stars. And that's all of the minifigures that I got in this bunch. A lot of them were great minifigures, a lot better than I was expecting. Some of them were exactly what I expected, and others were much worse than what I expected. But I think overall, it was definitely worth it to get all of these minifigures only for $1, even the ones that aren't really the best. I mean, I only used $1 to get them, so it's really not too bad, and I don't find it much of a waste. And so I can easily say that like 95% of these figures were great, and definitely a great alternative for whether if you want a figure for display, figure for play, or just a character that LEGO hasn't made for either of those things, then off-brand LEGO is definitely the best alternative. Now overall, I'd say like 99% of the time, official LEGO figures are always the way to go. You can never really go wrong with them, but that 1% can really go a long way. For example, Lobo, Kingpin, Groot, the Green Goblin, and then characters like Ezio, Assassin's Creed, the Mortal Kombat characters, specific suits for Iron Man. It's just something that you can't get everything from LEGO, and that's why I definitely 100% consider getting off-brand LEGOs regularly, depending on where they're from, if I know the quality is going to be good or bad, and depending on how expensive the official LEGO figure, if there is one, is. I'm really happy with all the figures that I got. Definitely I would say was worth the money that I had spent, and I will be leaving the link to where I got these figures for in the description, along with the brand names that I got them from. And so with that being said, this has been I Make Content, making more content for you, and I will see you in the next content that I make.